Hello, everyone. Hi, welcome to our seventh webinar on the Save My Sanity. So I would like to wish welcome to all of you who's actually currently watching, and thank you for tuning in. I'm hoping that everybody is staying safe right now. So now my name is Chantel and I'll be the host for the webinar. Now, just a little bit of introduction on what we will be sharing about today. So we're going to talk about raising children in a flexible and resilient brains. And our speaker for today is Marzuki. Now, before we go on, what I will do for those of you who just know me and know us from People Hive, what we will do is that I'll just give you a little short introduction on what that People Hive does. Okay, so just let me hold on and show you that what we do, because probably some of you who just met us, you'd be like, oh, what is People Hive? What are you guys? Now, just very short introduction. Let me just put it up here. Now, we do customize a lot of development programs such as leadership and culture. So that's very much the interventions, consulting. And what we also do is the digital side that is very much needed, the culture, learning and culture, and HR automation. So we've got apps and digital solutions for learning and people growth. So that's a little bit about us. Now, for some of you here, you'll be thinking about what is this Save My Sanity about? What I will do is I will show you a video on how we came about this Save My Sanity sessions. All right, just hold on and I will show it to you in just a bit. All right. Okay, hi everyone. So that's just a little bit of the story on how that we came about on the Save My Sanity. So for today's topic, it's really much that we noticed that not only Malaysia, if anybody else here is out from Malaysia, who's been from Malaysia, hello. But in Malaysia right now, we have a lot of schools are still closed, so children are at home and parents are also at home, which is hopefully all staying sane and not going crazy. But it's also one thing you do notice that since the children can't go out, how is it? It's about their development. What can we do about as parents in our busy life? How can we actually help in their development? So that's why we have an expert who's coming in. His name is Bazuki. He will be sharing on the 7 tips on how do we as working busy parents able to build our children to have really resilient and flexible brains. So before I bring on Mazuki, just a little introduction about him. He is one of what we call the masters in neurosemantics. And also the NLP as well. Now, what I do know, he's a certified neurosemantics and NLP trainer and meta coach, quite a mouthful, with the International Society of Neurosemantics. He also have co-authored books, international books, and one of it is called The Change. So without ado, I will bring on Mazuki to come in. Yeah. Hello, Mazuki.
Hello, Chantal. It's a pleasure for me to be here, and thank you for inviting me here this afternoon.
Thank you for speaking on this platform and doing this also for free to give back to the community. So thank you so very much. Well, before I hand over the session to you as well, what I will do is, or to all the viewers here, What's going to happen is Mazuki is going to probably share the seven, all the techniques which is needed, all right, and all that for the tips for today. At the end of it, we will actually answer your questions. But I do know you probably have questions. Just type it in. You can have two ways of typing it. One of it is you can, if you're watching from Facebook or YouTube, you can type it into the comment box and I'll bring it on. Or the second one, if you want to ask anonymous questions, I will put in a link. It's a Slido link where you can actually ask your questions anonymously and we will answer all your questions that you have, right? So there'll be two ways. Now, don't worry, just type in all the questions that you have at any time. We will try our very best to answer all of your questions here, right? Okay, so I'll hand it over to you, Mazuki.
Thank you, Chantal. And I would like to say thank you to all of you for being here. It's a pleasure and honor for me to be meeting all of you here today on this topic, raising children with flexible, resilient brains. A child's brain is under construction that wires itself to the world as the child experiences it. If you want your child to develop a flexible and resilient brain, you need to create the world that will stimulate its growth. With a flexible and resilient brain, they can navigate the world that is ever changing, the world that we as parents don't know yet, and they need to be flexible enough to be able to navigate that. So before I continue on, just to give credit to the 7 points that I'm talking about today, these 7 points were listed by Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett. She's a neuroscientist and a psychologist at Northeastern University. So what I did was to take a neurosemantics approach to this. Neurosemantics refers to how our semantics, our body, responds to the meanings that we put. So that's basically neurosemantics in a nutshell. And what we do in neurosemantics, we look at the structure, because once you understand the structure, you know the magic behind the seven behaviors that I'm going to share with you in a short while. We'll be here together for about 45 minutes, and I'll be sharing with you the 7 keys to raising children with flexible, resilient brains. And I hope that at the end of it, we'll have about 10 minutes or so of about question and answers. My style is to be light and humorous. So if I laugh or smile, I'm never laughing at you, but at our silly human qualities. My purpose is to lighten things up, to reduce being serious and be more real. Before I go on to the 7 behaviors, I'd just like to give you the foundation states. When you have these foundational states as you are interacting with your children, then these 7 behaviors will heighten or strengthen your relationships and your development of your children. I'd like to share with you these states. In neurosemantics, we say that we communicate from state to state. The quality of our state will determine the quality of the results that we get. So that's why states are foundational. Now, I'd like to share with you the foundational states for parenting through a little story that just quite recently, not less than a year ago, that my daughter shared with me. Now, my daughter, she has 5 children. The eldest, Azara, whom grandfather calls Grasshopper, is already 12, going on to 13. So one morning, Mama asked Azahra to heat up the wok for Mama to cook breakfast. So probably she was slightly groggy, Grasshopper. So she went to the kitchen, looked at the wok, and noticed there's some oil from the previous night still in the wok. And dreamily, she asked Mama, What do I do with the oil in the oak? If that happened to you, how will you respond? Scold the child for being such a sleepyhead, or send a text to grandfather because grandfather can see the humor behind it? So, the foundational state as we are interacting with our children to grow them up are two. These are the primary foundational states. One is the state of love, that state of love that you have for your child. And the second one is the state of joy. When you access these states, when you are operating from these mental and emotional states, the states of love and joy, as you are applying these seven behaviors, then you are leveraging, you are maximizing on the results that you get from these seven behaviors. Now, if you are just mechanically doing this with your child, then it may not be so useful for you. So, are you ready to get on with the seven behaviors that will help to grow your child's brain to be stronger and more resilient? Okay, let's start with the first behavior, that is, be a gardener, not a carpenter. Be a gardener, not a carpenter. Gardeners carve wood into the sorry, carpenters carve wood into the shape that they want. So carpenters take that raw piece of wood and they shape it according to how they want it to be. Gardeners help things grow on their own by cultivating a fertile landscape, creating that fertile environment and allowing that plant to grow according to what the plant is going to be. Parents can scout their child into something specific, say a concert violinist, or they can provide an environment that encourages healthy growth in whatever direction the child takes. This reminds me of a story that I heard as a participant in a particular program. There was this speaker on stage by the name of John Heron, and he was sharing his story how he was born of an American father and an Italian mother. After the Second World War, his father was shipped back to America, and him being left with his mother in Italy, being taken care by his grandfather and grandmother and the mother in a small village in Italy. Now, he mentioned in his talk that his grandfather was stonemason. So he took blocks of stone and carved them into whatever shapes that the local church commissioned him to make. One day, John mentioned that he was running around playing hide and seek with his friend, ran to the back of the house. When he got to the back of the house, he noticed his grandfather was standing on a ladder with a huge block of stone in front of him. So, probably just starting a sculpture. And being a 7-year-old boy, he didn't take any notice about that. So, went about playing. It's just that he said 6 months later, he was playing hide and seek with his friend again, and he found himself running to the back of the house to hide from his friend. Now, after 6 months, it's no more a block of stone. Because when he got there, he noticed that his grandfather was sculpting a beautiful statue of an angel. He could see the gown flowing, so soft like silk, and he could see the every feather on the wings of the stone angel. And his grandfather was working on the around the eye, and he could see as if the eyes were sparkling. And even though he was 7 years old, he was stunned at the beauty of the sculpture that his grandfather was making. And he asked his grandfather, Grandfather, how do you manage to make a beautiful statue of an angel from a block of stone. And his grandfather, from the top of the ladder, looked kindly down at him and said to him, Johnny, Johnny. You see, I mean, Italians, they speak something like that. Johnny, Johnny, Sissisi, the angel, she's already inside there. I just take out what is not her. That's what being a gardener is all about. So, as a parent, create that environment that allows the unique child to come out instead of being busy trying to scout what you want out of the child. So, that's the first point. Be a gardener, not a carpenter. Ready for the second point? The second point is talk and read to your child a lot. A lot. Research shows that even when children are just a few months old and don't understand the meanings of words, their brains will still make use of them. This builds a neural foundation for later learning. So the more words they hear, the greater the effect. They'll also have better vocabulary and reading comprehension. Words enrich their mental maps. And one of the mistakes that parents make is not talking to the child, thinking that the child does not understand them. The child does understand. When you speak the words from the states of love and joy, they can detect the state that you are in and they can know what you are speaking even when they don't know how to say the words yet. I remember a time when our youngest daughter, she's 24 now, will be getting married soon, when she was about 2 months old. It's just that we begin speaking to her even when she was in the womb. The moment she came out, we were talking to her. My other children were also talking to her as if that she understood. It's just that, yes, she understood. How we know she understood? One day, my daughter, my second daughter, Shaima, was wanting to dress up her baby sister, and there's a gap of about 15 years between the two of them. So she was dressing up her little sister. Sophia was only about 2 months old at that time. And customary, what Shaima does is she takes two dresses and puts in front of Sophia and said, which dress do you want to wear today? This one or this one? This one or this one? She's been playing that game with her baby sister. It's just that on that particular day, she didn't look at any of the dresses that her sister puts in front of her. Instead, she looked beside her. And there, on the bed beside her, was a red dress. And her sister picked that one up. Oh, do you want this one? Picked up the red dress and put it in front of her. And Sophia looked at that dress, fixed her eye on that dress. Children understand the words. It's just that we have not learned to understand the language that comes from their mouth. They have not learned how to control their voice yet. They have not learned how to make a voice yet. Yeah? So teaching them emotion words, for example, sad, happy, frustrated, is especially beneficial because it allows them to label the feelings that they have. They are beginning to to detect certain feelings in their body, and now they begin to know how to label these feelings. The more they know, the more flexibly they can act. Maybe you have had children who don't even know how to describe how they feel. So, using words, talking to your children helps them to describe that. For example, my daughter Shaima, with her second child, his name's Muhammad. However, the sister calls him Pocoyo. That's another story. Even at the age of about 3 years old, he has not really spoken yet because he's the kind of boy who just keeps silent, and he doesn't know how to express the words. He doesn't know the words to express how he felt. And I noticed that my daughter Shaima would use the menu list system with him, noticing his face going like this, and the skin becoming red and his stance. So Mama would ask him, Muhammad, are you feeling sad or are you angry? And then he would say, angry. Are you angry with Mama, Papi, or Kakak? Mama. So by using words, you are helping the child to identify certain words that they can use. So this is the second point. Talk and read to your child a lot and keep talking with your child. Okay, so that's the second point. Let's go to the third point, that is explain things. Explain things. It can be exhausting when your child is constantly asking, why? Mama, why? Why is that so? Why is that so? When my youngest youngest daughter, Sophia, when she was about 6 years old, maybe 5 years old, she asked me the why question that really stumped me. She asked, Daddy, why is fire hot? And I went, oh my goodness, I don't even know that answer, because I was about to answer, it's hot, that's why. But that's a non answer, not an answer. So they keep asking the why question. But when you explain something to them, they've taken something new and novel about the world and made it predictable. Brains work efficiently when they can predict well. So avoid answering why questions with because I said so. Children who understand the reasons to behave in a particular way can more effectively regulate their actions. That's why I come to this saying: children raised with reason becomes reasonable, reasonable. They are able to reason. So that's why, if you notice some children being unreasonable, that is an indicator that when they are growing up, they have not been provided with reasons for things. So, like in the example that I gave to you between me and Sophia when she was little, when she asked me the why question, and I was stumped and I didn't know the answer. And this is something wonderful about children. They understand when you say, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer. And that was how I answered her. I'm sorry, Fia. Daddy don't know this answer now. What if we were to look for the answer and maybe we'll find the answer later? And she just went, okay. And off she went. So you don't have to fake it. Be truthful when you don't know the answer. It's just that when you explain things, for example, you are cooking and you are chopping some onions and then your eyes water. Mama is chopping some onions. That's why my eyes are watering. I'm not crying. It's just that the chemicals in the onions are causing my eyes to water. And I'm going to mix it with this, and I'm going to put in the wok. However, before I put in the wok, I need to heat the wok first and put some oil inside there. As you are explaining all of those, this helps the child develop uh, a certain way of thinking. In neurosemantics, we call it a meta program. There are many meta programs that we human beings use in our thinking pattern. One of them is called causation, because by explaining things, the child begins to understand that there are certain things in life that just happens like that. Rain just happens. It's just that later on they know how rain is caused. That is what we call causeless. Then there is also the linear causation. Linear causation is I'm hungry, I eat some food, and the hunger goes away. That is linear causation. Then there are also complex causation. When things happen, there are complex um, elements coming into play that goes into play that creates a certain outcome. Then there is also personal causation, external causation, magical causation, or correlation. So the child, when you explain to the child, will help the child to develop that thinking pattern called causation. So they'll know sometimes it is linear, sometimes it involves a complex uh, um, parameters that needs to come in order for something to happen. So that is another, I would say, a very important reason for us parents to explain things for the child. Do not underestimate the child's capacity to understand things. It's just that when you explain to them, know their cognitive developmental stages. So the cognitive developmental stages goes according to the age. So you explain things according to the age that they are at. So you give the explanations according to their cognitive developmental stages. So that's the third point. Next point is describe the activity and not the person. Oh, this is critical in helping the child grow, because one of the first concepts that a child develop is the concept of self. So over here, when you describe the activity, you want the child to be able to separate between what they can do with who they are. Yeah. So for example, when your child smacks your daughter in the head, don't call him a bad boy, because bad boy is the person. It's the activity that is not desirable. So be specific when you caution the child. Stop hitting your sister. It hurts her and makes her feel annoyed. Tell her that you're sorry. So what you are doing is that you're describing the activity of hurting the sister. The same rule holds also for praise. Don't call your daughter a good girl or your son a good boy. Instead, comment on her actions. You made a good choice not slugging your brother back. This kind of wording will help her brain build more useful concepts about her actions and herself. In NLP, we have this presupposition called person and behavior describe different phenomena. A person is good and wonderful. In terms of esteem, a person is unconditionally esteemed. This is the healthy way of esteeming self. So that's why you do not want to equate behavior with a person. Your child is good, your son is good, your daughter is good, without any preconditions. Yeah. Now, behavior is subject to competency. So have you ever done something that hurt somebody accidentally without you meaning it because you did not know how to do it well? That happened with one of the situations that I had with my little grasshopper. She was about 4 years old at that time. So we were playing rough and tumble at my home. So as we were playing with the rough and tumble, and she just smacked me right across the face. And I was stunned at that point and said, Grasshopper, why do you do that? And she was stunned because it is as if, what did I do wrong? That kind of thought. And the moment that question went out of my mouth, I said, oops, wrong question to ask. Luckily, my daughter was there. She understands the structure of languaging, and she asked the question, Azahra, when you did that, What do you mean by that? So going to the behavior. What do you mean by that? And she's able to answer, it was a happy hit, Mama. She was just playing with grandfather, being happy and hitting as a means of just having fun. It's just that at 4 years old, she was not competent enough to realize that hitting in the face can hurt. So, person and behavior describe different phenomena. So, when you notice your child behaving in ways that are undesirable, that can hurt others or harm others, instead of labeling the child, you are stupid, you are crazy, you are a bad boy, uh, you are unthinking of others, you are not respectful of people. Get rid of all of those behaviors and go for the activity, because the child is unconditionally esteemed. The behavior will impact on how it will cause others to behave, because when the child is competent, then they'll be able to do things in ways that are more resourceful. Another example is, I keep giving this example about Maleficent. If you've watched that movie, Angelina Jolie acted in that movie. And whenever I ask the question, was Maleficent a good or a bad person? And typically, I get all sorts of arguments about that. So I hope that underlies this concept that a person is unconditionally worthy. It's just that when they are incompetent, they might do things that may hurt or harm others. So when our children do things that we detect that as hurtful, we detect that as harmful, we go in to the activity, to the behavior, and say, this behavior is not going to give you the result that you want. This behavior is hurting your sister. This behavior, so tell them the outcome of that particular behavior instead of linking it to the child. So that's the fourth point. Describe the activity, not the person. Again, just to remind you, coming from the state of love and compassion, you can correct the child's behavior when you not link it to the child. The moment you link it to the child, that's when the child finds it difficult in order to make corrections. Okay, so that's point number 4. So we've covered 4 points already. The first point, be a gardener, not a carpenter. Second point, talk and read to your child a lot. Because when you talk and read to your child a lot, you are helping the child to build their vocabulary, and that helps them to grow inside their minds, the inner game. The third one is to explain things, because it helps the child to understand cause and effect of things. The fourth one is to describe activity, not the person, because when you do that, you are able to give direct sensory based feedback to your child's behavior, in that way helping the child to make corrections and grow. So let's take the fifth point. Are you ready? The fifth point is help your children to copy you. Help your children to copy you. Now, we human beings learn by copying. In neurosemantics, we call it modeling. We look at the people around us, we see how they do things, and we notice the results that they get. And when we realize, hey, that's what I want, and then we go back noticing the behavior, then we copy the behavior in order for us to get at the results that we want. So, using the uh, point number 3, explaining things, and then coming to point number 5, helping your children to copy you. So this is how you can make it easier for your children to copy you. Most parents, they just do, and they expect the child to copy them. However, in order for you to do something, there is the way of thinking that guides your behavior. So when you explain things, going to point number three, when you explain things about how you are doing it, you are helping your child to copy you. So instead of just doing things around the house, you explain them. By explaining them, you're helping your child to copy you. So have you noticed how some tasks that seem like work to you, for example, cleaning the house, weeding the garden, can be a play to a child? Children learn naturally by watching, by playing, and as I mentioned, most of all by copying adults. And copying is an efficient way to learn, and it gives them a sense of mastery. So, hand them a miniature broom or a garden spade or a toy lawn mower and let the imitating begin, especially from the context of the Montessori model. One of the things that prevents our children from copying as well is because they have to use large tools, tools that are too big for their hands. So, by giving them tools that are just the right size for their hands, it helps them to copy us better. So, the lack of competency for them in using certain tools is because they are using the wrong tool. So get a miniature broom for them to play with, because a real broom could be so big for them. Get a miniature broom for them. Get a miniature screwdriver or spanner that they can use. And then as you are doing things, describe why, what, how of what you are doing whilst you are doing it. Because when you describe that, it gets them into the thinking of what that is for, how to do that, and why do I need to do things in that particular way. So once they have all of those concepts in mind, it becomes easy for them to do that thing out there. An example that I would like to share with you um, from Grasshopper again. You see, ever since Sophia asked me that question, Daddy, why is fire hot? I've become a student of little children. So I've been studying my youngest daughter ever since she was born. And when I begin to have grandchildren, I begin to study my grandchildren, and they have been wonderful teachers for me. So another story regarding helping your children to copy you. My daughter, in terms of the household, she will do things out of love and joy. She'll cook with love and joy. She'll clean the clothes with love and joy. All of those, because that's how it helps the children to copy her. It came to the point whereby one day, out of the blue, Grasshopper was about 6 or 7 years old at that time. Grasshopper went up to Mama and said, Mama, can I do the laundry from A to Z? And Mama said, Of course you can do that. And ever since that time until now, she's the one who does the laundry from A to Z. She'll take the soiled clothes, put it in the washer, uh, wash the clothes with the washer, take them out, hang them out to dry. Once they are dry, she'll take them. She'll take the dry clothes and sort it to according to everyone's clothes location. And why? And many people ask, how did that happen? How did your daughter train her daughter to do that? It's just that she was just doing those things and then explaining to Grasshopper why she's doing it, why it's important to do it, until one day she decides that I'm referring to Grasshopper, she decided that I can do those. I'd like to do those because Mama does that, so I can do those as well. So help your children to copy you. Everything that you do in the house, When you do it out of love and joy, guess what? There are no more chores in the house. Every activity becomes a common activity. So cooking is not a chore. Cleaning the house is not a chore. Cleaning the toilets is not a chore. Cleaning the bathroom is not a chore. It is an activity that is done together. So that's point number 5. Help your children to copy you. Next point is number 6. Expose children safely to lots and lots of people. Again, in the previous point, I mentioned that children learn through modeling. So when we expose our children to lots and lots of people, now they have many models to choose from and to learn from, along with people that your kids may normally encounter: grandparents, aunts and uncles, friends, and other kids. Try to exposing them to as much diversity as you can, especially when they are infants. According to research, babies who interact regularly with speakers of different languages may retain critical brain wiring that helps them learn other languages in the future. So expose them to as many languages that you want. According to Glenn Dorman, a child can easily learn 6 languages at one go from birth to the age of 6 years old. Yeah. Similarly, babies who see many diverse faces may wire themselves to better distinguish and remember a great variety of faces in later life. This might be the simplest anti-racism step you can take as a parent. Because when they see the different types of faces, what happens is that it creates familiarity. So when they grow up, they look at the different types of faces, they say, that's okay, that's life, that's people. However, if we don't expose our children to many different types of people, they have this one stereotype about people. And the moment they see something different, they might be, yes, they might be curious. At the same time, they will just disassociate uh, with that face. I remember when I was doing my A levels in a small town called Harrogate in North Yorkshire, in England. Um, my senior 1 year, when they went to Harrogate, they were the first foreigners in that particular small town. And my senior was mentioning to us that one day he was walking in town, and there was this mom with a 5 or 6 year old boy walking. And as they came close, this little boy looked at him with a strange look on his face and asked the mother, "Mommy, what's that?" What, not who. Because he's never been exposed to a face that doesn't look Anglo-Saxon. So he was stunned. He didn't know such things existed. So when we expose our children to lots of people, it develops healthy understanding of others. So I've mentioned to you that one of the first concepts that a child develop is the concept of self. This is what we call a self matrix. So when we expose our children to lots of other people, that helps them to develop a healthy matrix of others, a healthy understanding of others. Understanding refers to the meanings they put about others, the beliefs that they have about others, and the identities that they put on others as they grow in this world. So having a healthy sense of self, having a healthy sense of others allows them to grow and create wonderful relationships with people of diverse backgrounds. So that's the 6th point: expose children to lots and lots of people. So let's get to the 7th and final point: for this session, that is to applaud agency. Applaud agency. Children love to try things on their own without your help, like getting dressed or assembling puzzles. This is good. You want to develop a sense of agency. They take it upon themselves to do things instead of getting you to do things for them. So that's what we are referring to agency. They are the agent of their life. Sense of agency refers to the feeling of control over actions and their consequences. They take their pants and put it on their head. They have to struggle a little bit because the pants are not for the head. And when they put it on the head and they see the consequence, the result that it creates, maybe it's funny, and the child may laugh and run around the house with the pants on his head. That's how they create that sense of agency, power, control over their environment. Even actions that look like misbehavior may be a child's attempt to understand their effect on the world. For example, when your 2-year-old angel throws her grapes on the floor and waits for you to pick them up, she's not manipulating you. It could be, it's more likely that she's learning something about the physics of gravity. She's also learning that her actions have an effect on the world around her. So scoop up the grapes and let her try again and again and again and again. When Sophia was about 4 or 5 years old, every mealtime she'll go into this experimenting mode. We'll put we'll put rice in front of her and some dish in front of her. She'll take. She says, "I want soy sauce." She'll put soy sauce inside there. I want rose syrup, and she'll put rose. And she'll mix all sorts of things inside there. This is my experiment. And then when we ask her, okay, so are you going to eat that? She'll, no, I don't want to eat that. So give it to her elder sister to eat it. Now, so that's a way of experimenting with things. It allows their brain to grow. They are making sense of what's happening in this world. So when they go into that stage of creating things, of doing things, you want to applaud them instead of stopping them. So knowing when to step in and when to step back can be challenging. But if you are always present, guiding your child and taking care of their every need, they don't learn to do things for themselves. Sometimes letting them struggle builds resilience and helps them understand the consequences of their action. With Grasshopper, she learned how to climb before she can walk. She was crawling about 1 month, about 1 year old. Uh, no, not 1 year old, must be about 6 months old, just crawling, doesn't know how to walk yet. She came to the grill and began climbing. So instead of preventing her from climbing, I noticed that climbing, there is the danger of falling. So my responsibility is to prevent her from getting hurt. So I just went very close to the grill and just sat there ready for her to fall because she needs to learn the danger of climbing. At the same time, I do not want to stop her from experimenting with things. So if she falls, she needs to understand that danger. If I prevent her from falling, I'm preventing her from learning how the danger of falling. So I'm there. In case she falls, I can prevent her from hurting herself, but I don't prevent her from falling. So giving them the opportunity and encouraging them to do things on their own gives them this sense of confidence. So this is the third concept about that we create in our life. Earlier, I talked about the concept of self. So one is self-esteem. Another concept is the matrix of power, which is the concept of self-confidence. Self-confidence is when they're able to use their doing, the power of doing, the power of thinking, and the power of doing, and getting the results that they want. That gives them that confidence. So by encouraging them to make decisions, to take action, and noticing the results that they're getting from their action, we are encouraging them to take action in their lives. In that way, we are helping them to develop a healthy sense of self-confidence. So earlier we talked about self-esteem. That's one matrix about a person. The other is the matrix of power that creates self-confidence. Esteem is unconditional. Confidence is subject to competency. So they need to learn to be competent in doing things. So when we applaud, when we encourage our children to take action, to do things, that helps them to create, to be more confident in life. So through these seven points, we talked about earlier the matrix of self-esteem, the matrix of self. And so with power, that's the self-confidence coming in. And then about the matrix of others, knowing uh, how to uh, how to connect and relate with others when they are familiar with diversity. So these are the 7 points that I hope that you are getting something useful for yourself. The 7 points that when you interact and relate with your child from these seven behaviors, that will help your child develop their brains, their cognitive ability, the ability to think for themselves, to the ability uh, uh, to create outcomes from themselves, in order for them to be able to use their brains as they grow, becoming a teenager, becoming a young adult, becoming a mature adult. That sets them up for future successes in life, because we are not going to be there for the rest of their lives. They need to learn how to do that. So when we help our children to develop their brains, to be flexible and resilient, they are ready for whatever future that comes to them. So those are the 7 points that you have on the screen. So I'll just mention them as we end this session. The first one is be a gardener, not a carpenter. 2, talk and read to your child a lot. 3, explain things. 4, describe the activity, not the person. 5, help your child to copy you. 6, expose children safely to lots of people. 7, applaud agency. And to underscore all of that, to be doing all of these activities from the state of love and joy. And may your children grow to be the wonderful little creatures that they are, to become the resourceful adults, to become the adults that bring value and contribute to the well-being of this world. So I hope with that, I've been able to share something that is useful for you. And I hope you'll be able to use them in your life for the future. So with that, I would like to thank you for being patient with me throughout this session. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. If I know the answer, I can promise you I know all the answers. So, back over to you, Chantal. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your sharing. It's really, really quite interesting, and I love that how you put in your stories. Without ado, we have some questions that come up now. Those of the viewers here, if you have any questions, please feel free to type it into the chat box, or if you would like, you can actually type it into The Slido link that I provided earlier, you can actually key in there for anonymously. Right now, we've got some questions here. There's one question from anonymously as well. This person said, I wish I learned all this when my daughters are younger. Is it too late to apply for that when you're 13th and above?
Never too late. Yeah, never too late. Why I say never too late is uh, one is all of what I've covered in the 7 points. When you adjust them to be age specific, they can still be applied. So from those 7 points, I'm still using them for my adult children. My children are now adults. I have 5 children and 10 grandchildren. So adjusting according to their level of cognitive development and maturity. So that's one. You adjust according to their age and development. That's one. The other one is it came from my daughter, my second daughter. I mentioned to you, Shaima. It came from her because when they were growing up, my wife and I would say me especially, I didn't know all this. When my first 4 children were growing up, it was only later that I began to learn. And Rosita and I, we made lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of mistakes as we were parenting our children. It's just that when we learn new things and we brought it to the attention and say that, look, we did it in the wrong way and we're sorry that we did it this way, we didn't know much better. And Shaima pointed this out to us, and it warmed our heart because she said to us, it's okay that you acted that way or that way before because you didn't know that. However, it helps me to know those so that I don't repeat those to my children. And to me, that's wonderful. It's wonderful. Okay, so two reasons that I can think of why it's never too late to apply it.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
thank you. So I noticed that, like, to anybody outside here to hear, if you have your kids are older, you can. It's never too late. I was wondering, this might be our topic. If let's say you have your husband or spouse, can you? It's a bit the same topic. It's this not too late. But I'll just another topic for another day. But yeah, I will. I'll have another question that is coming up for you. Hold on, let me just show it here. There's another question that came up here. Let me show it here. Now, is protecting a child from bad situations always good, and where do one draw the line?
The line that I will draw is um, the the line of danger. The line of danger. Asking the question: is this incident going to create hurt or harm to my child mentally, emotionally, or physically? Is it going to create hurt or harm to my child? So that's the line that you need to draw. So if that event is going to hurt or harm the child, then you step in, yeah, to remove the child from the danger. If there is no danger, and as parents, what I really say to parents, convenience is not a consideration, because being a parent, you have signed up to be inconvenienced, whatever it is. It's just that some parents, they learn to be comfortable with whatever that the child does. So if the child is in a situation, for example, your child is 5 and beginning to argue with another child of 5, some parents tend to quickly swoop in, like a helicopter swoop in and take the child out. This is part of helicopter parenting. It's just that at times it is best for the child to learn how to resolve it for themselves. So if they are arguing and in that argument there are no words or deeds that creates hurt or harm, let them argue, because by arguing, they are learning how to resolve conflicts. If we were to just remove them from so-called bad situations, they'll not learn how to resolve conflict. So when we talk about bad, we need to have a strong definition of what we mean by bad. From my point of view, bad refers to a situation where the child could be hurt or harmed. So those are my two basic criteria. Is this event going to create hurt or harm? If the answer is yes, then I go in and then intervene. If the answer is no or maybe, I'll just allow it to play. Yeah, I give the example of grasshopper climbing the grill when she was about 6 months old, noticing the bed, which is hurting herself when she is going to fall down. So my intervention is to catch her if she falls down. My intervention was not to stop her from climbing. So that is what I would suggest to you. And you need to get your definitions clear about what is bad and what is good. Yeah. My definition is something that can cause hurt or harm, that is bad for the child. If it doesn't cause bad or harm, that is an experience from which the child can learn. Right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing. So far, that's right now it's also we're running out of time. So I would like to say thank you to everyone here. If you do like this show, please do like our show. And if you think that it's really useful to some of your friends out here who either have young children and older children, please do share the link that we have on the live shows here to your friends as well. And inside the link, right now in the comment box, we're going to have topics for you. If let's say any of you here have any topics that you like to learn about, please key it in. And you can actually, when you try to source for speakers for you, for those topics which are popular. And for those of you who want to know more on Marzuki as well, there's a link here. You can connect with him on LinkedIn, or you can connect with him on Facebook as well. That's Okay, you can be able to do that. I will put it inside the comments in a short while. Yeah. So for those of you here, well, thank you very much. If there's no other things, then all of you take care, stay safe, everyone. And Mazuki, thank you so much for sharing. I've also done a lot from you, and I hope all of you viewers here really love the show and have a lot of things that you can do with your kids to build a very resilient and flexible brains. Okay, thank you. All right, take care. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye bye.